G'day everyone, welcome to another edition of Fly Fishing in Nature's Realm. Now in this episode I thought I would start the first of a series of videos explaining different insects and their life cycles and how the trout interact with the different stages of their life cycles. So the first life cycle that I want to talk about is the celebrated mayfly. And you might be saying, why is it celebrated? Well, it's celebrated because it's just a fantastic time. It's like close season and springtime comes and then we all can go fishing and the trout just love the mayfly and they feed on it. So it gives the fly fishermen so many opportunities, it's not funny, alright, so it's great. So let's start off with the first part of the mayfly. Now the mayfly during the winter time and when they're not hatching, their habitat will be under rocks, it'll be under woody debris, could be weed beds, but I find rocks and woody debris to be the major habitat of the mayfly nymphs. If you go to any lake, any river, lift up a rock, lift up some wood bark, look under logs that are submerged, you'll find mayfly nymphs for sure. And what does a mayfly nymph look like? Well, let's have a look at one, which I'll put on screen now. Now, as you can see, the mayfly nymph is very particular. You can really, once you see one, you'll never forget it, okay? And they come in different sizes. There's different species. There's so many species of mayfly nymph, it's not funny. They all come under the Latin term of Leptophylidae, all right? I won't confuse you with the actual insect species names, but it all comes under Leptophylidae. Okay, so that's what a mayfly nymph looks like. All right. Now, when it begins to hatch is around springtime. There's a lot of conjecture as to what triggers the actual mayfly nymph to begin its life cycle. I firmly believe it is the heat that does it. Right, the heat of the springtime, it's warming up, warms up the water temperature of the water, and that signals the mayfly to hatch. There's a lot of people that'll give you different ideas. Yeah, they could be right, who knows, okay? But what I believe is the warmer weather coming on heats up the water. And this can be really looked at when we look at Harcourt Reservoir. That's at a very high elevation to the northern area of the state, and it really heats up there before it does, say, around the Ballarat region, okay? And what do we have? We have mayfly hatches there first, and then as the weather gets even hotter, then the areas around Ballarat, Hepburn Lagoon, those type of lakes, you get your mayfly hatches there. So that's an interesting point to remember. Okay, now at that time, when the water level and the actual water temperature increases, the nymphs decide to leave their habitat of rocks and woody debris and so forth, and then emerge up or ascend to the water surface. Now, at this stage here, through the water column, trout will feed on, all right? And you won't see this happening. Okay, so we put on a fly like a brown seal's fur nymph. We might put in some lead wire, well I do, just to get it down to a depth that you require. And even though we can't see the trout feeding on them, how do we actually know that they're there? Well, we don't, but we can suspect because we're at the right time of the year. The weather of the day is warming up and the water temperature is up, and we've heard that the mayfly hatches have been occurring. So what you do is you look for areas around the lake that have lots of rocks, lots of woody debris, all right? Weed beds and stuff like that. So we would then search those areas of the lake. So we'd cast out, let our fly sink to whatever depth we think they might be at, and then we'll retrieve them. We'll retrieve that fly line. You could be inching the fly line back, you may figure a back, and so forth. So that's how you'd actually fish that brown seal's fur nymph, or weighted brown seal's fur nymph. And like I say, that's when the trout will feed on. Now when the nymph gets to the water surface, or right in the meniscus of the actual surface, that's another stage where the trout will feed on. Now you'll see the greatest indication to the trout feeding on the emerging nymph is a water boil. So if you can imagine a trout, there's your water surface there, okay, the trout's underneath it, he will take an emerging nymph and it'll be right near the water surface, and his tail will flick up and create a boil. That's the greatest indication that the trout are feeding on the emerging nymph. And we need a fly pattern to imitate that stage of the emerging nymph. Okay. Now, again, there's lots of different fly patterns out there that we could use. I like to use you could use a brown seals for a nymph with no weight in it, and we could rub in some floating. That will suffice and work to imitate an emerging nymph. I have a pattern I developed called the Smith Emerger. Now that one has foam in it, and it's a great fly because the tail and the body is made out of marabou, which will absorb the water, and the foam keeps it up so it's half in the water and half out, which is exactly what the natural mayfly nymph can do. Alright, so how do we fish that? Again, see that boil, cast your fly out, make sure there's no drag, so you may need to mend it, so forth, and let it sit there and wait for the trout to come up and take it, and you'll be pleasantly surprised when it does. So what happens now is the emerging nymph, or the actual natural, well then its wing case will split open, and this is to complete the life cycle, and the sub-imago will come out from that split wing case, and it's basically a nymph with wings. Alright. Now the way we identify the mayfly dun is to look at the wing and see that it is mottled and it is dark. Alright, that's the key indication that that is a mayfly dun. And what happens is it will stay on the water surface, and its object there is to dry its wings. So it'll float and it'll drift on the surface, and if it's a windy day you'll see them in the waves. Pretty hard to see them when they're in the waves. Alright, and then they'll flitter up and then down, then up and then down until they can really dry their wings, and they'll fly to the shoreline and sit in bushes, tussock grass, tree branches, and so forth. They'll sit there and wait for the next weather conditions that are suitable to the mayfly. Right? So when it's at the dun stage, the trout feed on them as well, but they're sitting on the water surface, high above the water surface. So what fly can we use there? Again, there's a multitude of different patterns you can employ. I like, and the best one I reckon, is the Highland Dun. That's a fly that was developed by the late Noel Jetson, and what a pattern it is. It's fantastic. Another good fly for this stage of the mayfly dun is the cripple dun. I reckon that's a great pattern. And like I say, there's a whole host of different patterns. So either select your own, or I'll be tying some flies in the future that will represent that stage. Right? So how do you fish that stage? Again, cast out. Make sure your fly's not dragging. Alright. If you look at the naturals and they're floating along at that speed, and your fly isn't drifting along at that speed, you're not going to get it touched. Right? It's got to drift at the same speed. So you may have to gink up your whole leader right up to the tip if it's a real wavy, windy day. Right? Depending on the conditions, you might need to just, gink your fly and that's it. If it's like, pretty calm. So you've got to work it out with the weather conditions, but make sure it's drifting at the same speed as the naturals. Right? Very important. Okay, so we now come to the stage where the dun in the bushes decides, and the weather conditions there for the mayfly dun to hatch out into the spinner is sort of like sunny, calm spring days. They're the best type of weather. And when that occurs, again, the actual wing case will split open and out will pop a spinner. Now, to identify the spinner, it'll have clear wings. All right, it'll be crystal clear wings, and that's the easy way to identify a mayfly spinner. Now what that spinner does, the male and the female, their only intention is to mate and to reproduce. So they'll fly in the air and you'll see them in the act of reproducing. Now when they're at that stage, forget it guys, sit back, enjoy the sun, because you won't catch them. All right? Until we can get a fly that will actually hover, we ain't got a hope. All right? So, you know, if you want to really invent a really great fly pattern, try one that can hover. I don't know how you would do that. But, so we wait, and we wait for the female to actually land on the water surface and lay her eggs. As you can see, the eggs are dropping down through the water column to the bottom. And that completes the life cycle. But it's at this stage that a fly pattern is needed, and the best fly, and I'm only going to mention one fly, and that's the Macquarie Red. No fly comes near it, guys. It really works well because it almost, because of its body hackle, it almost sort of like gives the appearance that it's hovering just above the surface, or it's so high, you know, because of that body hackle and the construction of the fly. So my recommendation would be a Macquarie Red for when the mayfly spinner is laying eggs. To fish it, again, we cast out the fly and we make sure there's no drag. If you are at the right weather conditions, and they'll mainly be calm anyway, so you won't have a problem. So get it as close as you can without spooking the trout. Get your fly out close as you can without spooking the trout. Right? That's important. And then what happens is the male and the female, after they've finished their reproduction, they will die. All right? And they become what's known as the spent spinner. And their wings are just out flat on the water surface, dead, and they will accumulate along the shoreline edges of the water, and the trout will feed on that stage as well. And the best fly that I could recommend for that stage is the rump spinner. Now the rump spinner is a fly that's very hard to tie, but when you complete the tying of this fly, does it work? It's just fantastic, guys. It's like a reward for effort in tying that fly. Let me tell you, and I'll have an episode in the future on showing us how to tie the rump spinner. So the spent spinner is the last stage. Again, the way you'd fish that, cast it out on the edge with the naturals and just wait for the trout. You'll see them, you know, observation, all right? Watch the area till you see a trout actually feeding on the spent spinners, then cast out and let the trout come to the fly, and you should have success with that pattern there. But I hope you have learned something in regards to the life cycle of the mayfly and how it works, and how important it is to be and know what stage the trout, you know, when they're feeding, what stage of the mayfly life cycle are the trout on. All right. So, you know, if you wanted to know, you know, if they're in the water column, basically you'll see no action whatsoever. And then if you cast out to those areas, you retrieve that fly and you hook up, well, you know they're at that stage. See the emerging nymph, you'll see boils in the water surface. The mayfly done, well, you'll see them floating everywhere. It'll be amazing. And if you ever go to Tasmania, some of the mayfly hatches over there are just incredible. You know, there's not just sort of like 20 or 30 mayfly duns, there'll be hundreds, if not sometimes thousands of mayfly. They come in waves. It's absolutely incredible. And for the spinner, you'll see clouds of them, and they'll fly up and down like that. That'll be the key action to the mayfly spinner, and they'll be mating. And then when they land on the surface, that's when we target and put our fly out to them, and the trout will feed on them at that stage. And they'll feed on them as they're flying in the air. Don't worry about that. They'll be leaping out of the water. All right. So, you know, that gives a key indication that they're on the mayfly spinner. And then the spent spinner, we'll see them floating, you know, sometimes in, you know, hundreds around the shoreline edges. And don't forget rivers too, guys. You know, Goulburn River, that has a lot of mayfly hatches there, especially with Baetis. You know, that's probably the biggest mayfly hatch on the Goulburn River and its feeder streams. is the Beta's Mayfly, and they're probably about a size 16 hook, so you need to get your flies down to a different size. And I would recommend different patterns for that, like the Golfer Special, which is one of a pattern that really works well there. So guys, don't neglect the rivers as well. And the great thing, and this is why the Mayfly is so celebrated, you're just going to learn so much. It's just going to be, you know, for me it's been a lifetime of intrigue, you know what I mean? And by knowing what the insects are doing, it's going to make you a better fly fisherman, trust me. So in the next video I might talk about caddis, and then I'll talk about chironomids, mud eyes, dragonflies. We'll go through a whole host of different insects, and we'll learn their life cycle stages and what flies to represent each stage. And this is the key to becoming a better fly fisherman. You know? And how can you learn all that? Well, you can watch videos like mine, but you could hire a guide. A good guide should be able to teach you all the different insects that are out there and how to identify them and so forth. You could join a fly fishing club, and guys, there's lots of fly fishing clubs out there that you could attend, and they'll teach you as well. So there's different ways we can learn about it. Get as much books, magazines, read up on it, you know what I mean? Take samples, you know. I used to have a whole little bottle of vials of different insects and put them in alcohol. And I friggin' lost that when I shifted house one day, so I'm absolutely gutted that I don't have that anymore. But that's the extent I went to, you know, because I just love it, you know what I mean? It's just fantastic. So guys, enjoy it and learn, alright? So until next time, this is Bruce Smith saying bye for now, and we'll see you on the next episode of Fly Fishing in Nature's Realm.